Happy Wednesday and welcome to week 2 of Thrifty Pastel Month. Now in week 1's video, I shared with you the way I use white watercolor to make pastel tones of watercolor, and we painted a beautiful landscape with those pastel tones. Now today, I am playing off of the same idea, but instead of watercolor, I am using gouache. I'm going to show you how to take regular gouache colors, mix them with white, and then create a pretty cool pastel painting using them. Now, for gouache, I will be using Artwell's 42 count of jelly gouache to create with. I do have the lid tilted up so that the studio lights won't reflect off of the lid and into the camera. Now, this is an amazing quality gouache that comes in 50 milliliter cups. They have their own individual lids to help keep them pliable, and an airtight palette lid to contribute to the same. Now, I will be choosing 5 regular colors and a white in order to illustrate with today. I will also include a link in the video description that will take you directly to this gouache set, just in case it piques your interest and you decide you want to add it to your artistic collection. For this video is brought to you in part by Artwell. So without further ado, let's get started. For supplies, I will be using Academy 140 pound cold press acid free 100% cotton paper. This is the artist grade paper to the Bohong professional line of papers. For paints, of course, I'm using Artwell gouache in the colors of number 109 scarlet red, 121 pastel yellow, number 100 which is ultramarine, number 105 violet, number 90 viridian, number 83 burnt umber, and I'm throwing in the titanium white, which came in their first 42 count release, or you can buy it open stock, sets of 2s, sets of 9 if I'm not mistaken. And I'm wrapping everything up with the Trenton nylon brushes that I've been testing out, and I have to say I like quite a bit. Now, let's get to painting. Okay, friends, it is time to create. Now, before I jump in, I do want to draw your attention to the video description where you are going to find a link to this gouache set that I'm using in today's tutorial. Now, of course, many of you may already know this is the Artwell 42 count of jelly gouache 50 milliliter cups. Now, this is their second release. They do have 2 different releases, the original basic release, and this is the second release known as the metallic release. It has 24 metallic colors and 18 core colors. Of those 18 core colors, 11 are new colors that are not included in the original basic 42 color set. In the video description, you are going to find a link taking you to this set, as well as a special offer 10% discount code that Artwell has been so gracious to bless us with for anyone who may be interested in grabbing this set up to add to your own art collection. So definitely check that out. Definitely take advantage of it. Now, that discount code is only valid on Amazon, so be sure that you are using the link that's in the video description so that you can grab it if you would like. So let's catch up to where we are. I am working on what is actually one of the illustrations that I'm going to be including in this new collection of creations I decided to work on. They are all going to be 10 by 7 pieces of Christmas themed artwork. I love Christmas. It is my favorite time of year. And as soon as we enter in November, my mind starts to working on all types of different creations and things to do. So I decided that I was going to work on a series of Christmas paintings that you can hang on the wall for Christmas decoration. And I was going to work on them throughout this Christmas season and maybe throughout next year as well, and premiere them next Christmas season, because I do want to put quite a few paintings together in this series. So that's kind of the mindset that I was in as I went into creating this composition. I also need to throw out that I was playing off of the fact that this is week 2 of Thrifty Pastel Month, hence the reason we're turning regular gouache colors into pastel tones in order to paint with. Now, the prompt for the second week is dessert, and I decided to do the Christmas theme painting using Christmas candies, which would be considered a dessert. Up until this point, I have mixed the scarlet with white to paint one of the peppermints. I've mixed the pastel yellow. Well, actually, I did not have to mix the pastel yellow because it's actually a pastel tone already. But you can mix white into it to make it even lighter if you wanted to. I mixed the Viridian with white in order to paint one of the candies. I mixed the ultramarine with white in order to paint one of the candies. I mixed the violet with white in order to paint one of the candies. And then I made an indigo color. Now what I did was took ultramarine blue and mixed it with a little burnt, just a touch of burnt sienna, until I was able to push that blue a little bit closer to what would be considered indigo. Then I mixed in a white in order to turn it into a pastel shade, or I'm sorry, a pastel tone of indigo, and I painted one of the candies with it. And then for the last candy, I just made a different variation of the red mixture in order to do it, trying to make sure that I keep cohesion on the paper. And if you notice, I laid those candies out in sort of rainbow order just to help it look better and more pleasing to the eye. Moving on to the candy cane. Here, I didn't actually mix white to make pastel tones. I did use mass tone of a lot of colors. Now, the candy cane stripes are done with scarlet. The actual bow itself is done with Viridian. That Viridian mixture does have a little white mixed into it, but I also mixed a lot of water so that it would cause a color shift. You will notice that I painted it twice just to get it the color that I wanted it to be. But nonetheless, I knew that the color shift, especially with gouache in a really light watery layer like that, once it dried, it was going to shift even lighter, giving me more of a pastel undertone. I tackled the leaves using, actually the leaves are a pretty interesting combination. I grabbed the Artwell 24 half pan watercolor set, which again, a really great quality set of paints, especially for a beginner. But I grabbed those and I used the tree green, which is, I think it's tree green. It might be called sap green, might be called tree green. Either way, it's a sap green color. I use that. You can use olive if that's what you have. And then I mix that with a little bit of ultramarine from the watercolor set in order to get a shade. And that's what I use to paint in the holly leaves. Use the credit card scraper to scratch in the veins. And then the berries themselves were painted with, of course, the scarlet color. And then I used the shadow with scarlet with a little bit of blue and a little bit of the burnt umber mixed in. So that caught you up with the first layer. At this point, I'm going back in and working on the second layer of things. I'm going to be adding in some details here and there, trying to add shape and roundness to everything, starting to gauge where I'm going to put my shadows, because I do want it to have sort of a 3D, I can reach down and pull the candy off the paper type of feel to it. So I started with the bow and the holly leaves. The green mixture here is going to be Viridian mixed with ultramarine blue and a little burnt umber. Now, the reason I keep mixing both the ultramarine and the burnt umber, if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that is actually my favorite color combination in order to mix a neutral that's really dark, like Payne's Gray Black leaning without actually using a black. So I'm mixing that in to the regular colors in their mass tone in order to darken them to have the shadow colors for everything that I need. At this point, I went in and I put in the details on the bow. I put in the veins on the actual leaves. I started to put some shape into the holly berries that are in between the bow and the leaves. And I am also working on making the peppermints rounder. Now, in order to do this, I mixed a gray from the ultramarine blue and the burnt umber. I watered it down a lot. And I'm going in and painting the outer circular part of those white areas of each candy. What this is going to do is add some roundness. It's adding shadow, giving some contrast to the white top, which is making the candies look rounder. I also grabbed a pencil and added in some wrappers on each of the candy because I felt like, hey, let's add wrappers and make everything look like it's wrapped in plastic at the last minute. So you saw me grab a pencil, draw in all of those wrappers, and now I'm going in with that same mixture of burnt umber and ultramarine blue in a really watery form in order to emulate the transparent wrappers. So basically I'm using the kind of watery black in order to add in just the shadows, and that's going to use the white of the paper to make the wrappers kind of pop. It's going to really pop later on when we go in and put some white gel pen on top of it, but that's coming in a moment. At this point, I'm doing the exact same thing to the candy cane, where I'm adding in that shadow along the side that would be shadowed on the white area of the candy cane, then kind of blending it out. And you'll notice as I do this, the candy cane starts to take on roundness. I'll also add in the red areas of that candy cane, you can dab in a little of that shadow color on each corner, and it's also going to help add to the roundness. Here, we're working on shadow. Basically, I'm putting down a little bit of water under each of the candies, and then I'm going back in with that same gray, and I'm laying down the shadows. This is going to add the kind of 3D effect to the painting. You do have to pick a light source, so pick what direction your light is coming from before you start to put down your shadow. At this point, I'm putting down the shadow on the candy cane, and I'm really just going to take my time and kind of gauge where the shadow would hit, what part of the cane or the bow is actually touching the table. And of course, you would make that part much, much darker. Ultimately, at this point, I'm just kind of going back and forth, adding in those finishing details that I feel I need. A little bit more roundness on each of the candies or the candy cane, adding in that really dark shadow where each of the objects would be touching the surface that is on. And you'll notice that with each passing layer, it's adding more and more and more of a 3D feel to the overall painting. It was really fun to do this. Of course, I had to splatter. This is going to kind of help give it sort of a background. Maybe those are sprinkles on the table or little pebbles of candy or whatnot. Who knows? At this point, I'm grabbing a gel pen and I'm going in to put on my highlights to make everything look like it's wrapped in plastic. And this was actually so much fun. Especially putting the little line down the candy cane and how it instantly looked like it was wrapped in plastic. That was so cool to me. Putting some highlights on the bow, you know, the little fabric, strings of fabric would be catching the light, so I'm putting that on. I'm darkening the inside of that bow just a little bit more, adding a little bit more contrast. It's just going to help it stand out better. My friends, was really fun. I really enjoyed this creation process. I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. I enjoyed bringing you guys along as I tricked through using white gouache to turn some gouache colors into pastel tones and use them in combination with other regular gouache colors in order to paint this week 2 prompt for Thrifty Pastel Month, which is dessert. And it also happens to be one of the illustrations that's going to be a part of the Christmas wall art collection I decided to start to work on. I don't know. I just decided to start working on a collection. Yeah, so I'm so happy I was able to share this with you guys. Before I wrap up, I do want to point out one thing to you guys. Do not forget that you can check the video description where you are going to get a 10% discount code offered on the Artwell 42 count of jelly gouache. These are 50 milliliter cups. Each cup has its own individual lid, and it is in an airtight palette as mentioned earlier in the video. Now, there are 24 metallic colors in this set, as well as 18 regular core colors. And of those 18 regular core colors, I believe like 11 are new colors that you won't find in the original 42 gouache set release. So in the video description, you are going to find a link to take you directly to this particular set, as well as a discount code for 10% valid on Amazon. So by all means, if it piqued your interest to give this gouache a try, take advantage of that and run out and get you a set of this gouache. I promise you won't be disappointed. The quality is absolutely amazing. Hit up the comment section. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you give the illustration a try in your own way? You know, how did it come out for you? Did you try anything just mixing that white gouache with your regular colors in order to create pastel tones? I'm really interested. Any questions, I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. If you're new to the channel or returning and you haven't subscribed, do consider hitting that subscription button and that notification bell so you'll know when we go live and when we upload. And of course, if you saw, picked up on, liked, or enjoyed hanging out at all, don't forget to sprinkle a little love and give the video a thumbs up so it'll help other wonderful viewers like yourself discover the thrifty art corner of the world. Video description is going to have all of the relevant links. You can check out so many different things. Don't forget the discount code, the link taking you directly to the Art Well 42 count of jelly gouache that's going to have the 24 metallic and 18 core colors in it. You're going to get Palm Street link, so if you are interested in the handmade, handcrafted sketchbook sales, you can check out that particular link. Most recommended product list, Defyantarts website, as well as Patreon members. Just a little quick plug for you. This past Monday, we did have our regularly scheduled Monday Night Live, and for the very first time, I tried my hands at soft pastels / chalk pastels, whichever you want to refer to them as, and I want to say we had a wonderful time. We painted this particular painting of a yew tree berry with some snow on it. And as I said, this was the very first time I tried soft pastels, and I had a ball. So if you are a member of the Creation Station, go check this out. And if you're not a member of the Creation Station, do check out the link. Check out the description and see if it's something that you would like to come and join along and give a try. There are a lot of perks, and we do many different things like this particular creation, you know, where we're trying different tutorials, trying different instructionals from books, trying different ideas, different techniques, different products. And it is an open all. We do everything from water soluble to chalk pastels now, oil pastels, alcohol markers, watercolor crayons, you name it. So definitely check it out, friends. And as I always tell you at the end of every single video, just keep creating.